Hello again, I am Blunt, and you've stumbled across one of those rare videos where I don't talk about tech or gaming or culture or anything like that, but instead talk about food and drink. One of the food and or drink things I'm particularly enthusiastic about is coffee. I've tried very hard not to become a coffee snob, but there is a vast difference between okay coffee and good coffee and the different methods of brewing, and I have a little coffee scale, and I feel guilty every time I use it because it's such a fussy, just hipstery way to make coffee. And point is, I like coffee quite a lot. But as we're boiling towards summer, as indeed we are here in Sydney, Australia right now, I tend to switch to cold brew coffee because I can still have my coffee, and it's a different sort of flavor profile of coffee because cold brew gives you a different flavor profile, but of course it's a nice iced cold drink to enjoy on a summer afternoon. And if you're interested in making your own cold brew coffee, there is a particular bottle specifically made for doing this. I've got a couple of them. I've been using them for a couple of years now, and I heartily recommend it. I'll pop an Amazon affiliate link in the down below for you there because they do work really well and they're completely fuss-free as opposed to some of the other cold brew methods. But when I was Googling around a couple of days ago looking for different methods of cold brew, maybe some variations to try, so something to explore, I came across something that somebody told me about once, but I had forgotten about. But as soon as I saw it, I went, oh yeah. And I thought to myself, better try it before I forget about it again. It is this, Mr. Black, and it is allegedly the very best coffee liqueur in the entire world. For you Americans, what I just said there is coffee liquor. Liqueur, not liquor. Liqueur. Say it with class. And while you're at it, aluminium. So, Mr. Black, as you might assume, given the introduction I just gave it, it is made with cold brew coffee, and not just that, but made with coffee they brew on site, and not just that, but made with specialty Arabica beans that they bring in green, roast themselves on site at the brewery. I swear I haven't been drinking yet. Then make it into cold brew on site, and then mix it with spirits, which they also brew on site. The neutral spirit in question that they use to mix is vodka, because, well, vodka is a neutral spirit, and that vodka is brewed from Australian wheat, because this is an Australian product. In fact, it's made right here in Sydney somewhere. No artificial flavorings, no artificial colouring to get it nice and dark or anything, just simple, honest, pure, and allegedly the absolute very best in the world. But obviously, in my curiosity about the product, I snatched some up, and just in case it blew my mind open, I wasn't going in with very high hopes because, well, everyone who makes a specialist spirit says it's the best because, well, that's what marketing is. But just in case it was particularly good, I recorded my very first sip of the stuff yesterday. I drank it just neat, their own serving suggestion, a single measure, poured over ice, and sipped. And, well, here's what I thought about it. Figured I'd record my first taste test in case I decided to make a video about this stuff. I've got some ideas. If this appears in the middle of another video, I went forward with those ideas, I guess. But I've only smelt it so far, and it does smell exactly like you would expect it to smell. It smells like cold brew, but with just a whiff of that aromatic sort of ethanol alcohol stuff just on the wind of it. So let's have a go. Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Oh. So, based off the aroma, I was like, yeah, it's going to taste like a coffee liqueur. I've had coffee liqueurs, I've had Irish creams, I've had various kinds of coffee-based alcoholic beverages before, even some made with just a shot of espresso and vodka and whatever else in. None of them come close to how richly velvety, delicate that is. Hang on. What are their own tasting notes on the website here? Here we go. The final brew is bittersweet. I'm not getting a lot of bitterness. It's more on the sweet side of things, even though it has like half the sugar than something like a Kahlua or something. I think they compare it to somewhere I saw along the lines. So it's not nearly as sweet as some other coffee liqueurs are, which are artificially sweetened. But it has the sweetness of the cold brew, because cold brew is naturally, it just has a sweeter profile than hot brewed coffee, just because of the way it's brewed. Balanced sweetness and enduring coffee kick. Again, the coffee kick is definitely there. You feel it, just feel your sinuses. I wouldn't call it a kick, like even straight up, doesn't sort of punch you in the back of the throat like, I don't know, sipping some nice vodka or something would. Oh. Oh yeah, okay. I'm going to make some cocktails with this. It is bloody amazing. Delicious. I found my new favorite summer sip and drink. As you can see, I was impressed. Very impressed, actually. It is gorgeous. Now, along with the bottle, they have these little tags that hang off the bottle, as you know, a lot of specialty spirits do, that tell you a little about, you know, it's the world's best coffee liqueur for those who know it's the best. And there's a quote from some world coffee tasting champion on the back here as well. I've never tasted coffee liqueur so balanced and delicious. Mr. Black is hands down the world's best. And I can't disagree with that. It is wonderfully balanced and oh, just, yeah, well, the word is delicious. But elsewhere on these tags, where is it? There we go. They've got a little espresso martini simple recipe there, but there's also a QR code. When you scan that QR code, it sends you directly to their YouTube channel with a how-to guide, a 90-second espresso martini. So I thought, considering how much I enjoyed this, I will go through their recommended recipes. Aside from the one on the QR code, their website, the front page of the website, has 3 different recipes. So we're going to try them all today. We'll start with the espresso martini. 2 measures of Mr. Black cold brew liqueur, 1 part freshly brewed espresso, which I have let cool a little bit so it doesn't instantly destroy the ice, into a cocktail shaker and shake extra hard. They do very, very specifically say extra hard because you want to get that foam going. You want a lot of air in there. You want to change the texture of the drink. That's one of the things that shaking like this very vigorously tends to do. Plus you get the foam on top as well. Ignore the bright lights back there. That's because of the high-speed filming I'm doing. But I just wanted to stop and say I hate my cocktail shaker. I just hate it. There's a gasket, a silicone gasket around the top here, and it just always leaks. No, it fits properly, and I don't know. So I'm gonna hold this as tight as I can and shake it on camera, and hopefully I don't spray this stuff all over my computer gear. And if you're wondering why I put one big ice cube in and smash the other one up, one big one and lots of little chunks tends to be the ideal way to mix a drink like this, according to cocktail nerds. Because the little ones melt faster, therefore cool the drink. The big one provides enough agitation. There's your GIF. Pour into a glass and let's taste test. So, espresso martini. I've certainly got the lovely foam that we expected there from that vigorous shaking. It should be firm enough to support a garnish of 3 coffee beans. I don't have any coffee beans. All mine are ground up at the moment. Forgot to reserve a few for this, but it's only a garnish, so who cares? The important thing is the taste. Certainly looks nice. So, oh my. Okay. So the shaking definitely did change the texture a bit, chilled it right down for a start, but also gave it that sort of velvetiness. The foam helps with that, of course. The extra shot of espresso gives it a much more impactful coffee kick, brings the bitterness down a bit, or brings the bitterness up a bit too, so it's slightly more bitter than just drinking it straight. And I'm not a huge fan of martinis in general. I do like them extremely dry usually, but I don't know whether I'd call this a martini necessarily, but it is delicious. I mean, what makes a martini a martini? Is it the vermouth? Don't know. Not a cocktail nerd. But I can tell you that this tastes delicious, and I'm going to stop drinking now because I've got 2 more drinks to make, and I don't want to get sloshed in the before we get to the end of the video. But I'm going to go pop that in the fridge to preserve its coolness. And I will finish it off later. It probably won't taste nearly as good once it's been sitting around for a while, but waste not, want not, I guess. Like I mentioned before, on their website front end, they have no less than 3 recommended recipes, one of which is the very cleverly named Cold Fashioned. See, because it's made with cold brew liqueur, and it's an old-fashioned recipe. Well, I thought it was clever. I'm going to do that one last, because I'm not going to go strictly by the recipe, because I am a fan of an old-fashioned, and what they've done Well, we'll talk about it when we get there. But first, the other recipe is a White Russian. I have had exactly one White Russian in my entire life, and that was way back in the day before I'd even developed a taste for coffee in the first place. So I didn't enjoy it. I just got it out of curiosity and because we were making movie references. White Russians, and they tend to pop up in Hollywood movies from time to time. They just stand out because it's got a name that sticks in your head. Now, a normal White Russian is made with coffee, of course, vodka, and either cream or milk. Because Mr. Black is made with vodka in it already, it's cold brew with vodka in it, we can skip that step, so the recipe becomes 2 stages. Mr. Black and milk, basically, or ice. So let's just pour it into a glass and go for it. Specifically, the recipe is ice, a double shot of Mr. Black, and some ice cold milk. Of course, if you're dairy-free or vegan, feel free to go oat milk or whatever non-dairy alternative you prefer. Simple, quick, easy. All right then, taste test White Russian. I like the presentation. I like how it sort of layered itself there. I think we should give it a little bit of a mix there just before we start drinking. It's taking on the color of a nice chocolate milkshake, actually. Let's have a go. Interesting. That brings the alcohol forward a bit more. The coffee is diminished, but it definitely feels a bit more aromatic in the mouth. So, yeah, much more diluted. I mean, it does taste like milk coffee, basically. So it's like a, cold brew if you add a splash of milk to it. But I didn't expect the increase in the aromatics of the alcohol. It tastes much more. I don't know what the word is. I really should read some guides on how to give proper tasting notes before I do something like this. The more ethanolic kind of thing. The thing that hits the top of your palate and goes through your nasals. So, not sure if that's going to be my favorite way to go this, but it's quite pleasant. So if you are into the White Russians, or indeed, creamier dairy-based drinks and things like that, midsummer afternoon drink, perhaps, this one. But not bad. Not bad at all. I am going to have to finish this one because I need this glass for the next drink, so... I mean, I could pour it into a different glass. Right about this time, I should mention, kids, drink responsibly. The drinks I'm making here, you should have once, twice a week, at the end of the day to wind down. Not every day, not multiple every day, certainly. These are treats for a lovely, relaxing Friday afternoon in the summertime. The only reason I'm drinking them is because, well, convenience. I don't have another one of these lovely tumblers. I broke my second one. Next. Now then, the cold fashioned. Now on their website, it's a very simple recipe again. They listed it simply 1 part Mr. Black, 1 part rye whiskey. But that's not really an old fashioned. What makes an old fashioned is you muddle together some sugar and some bitters, then in goes the rye, and then twist of orange or other citrus, but usually orange. So without the bitters and without the extra sugar and without the orange, I don't think it's fair to call this old-fashioned inspired at all. I mean, the name is clever, which is probably why they used it, but it's not really an old-fashioned. So I'm going to do a variation which is closer to the recipe of an old-fashioned. I'm going to go with a couple of dashes of orange bitters because that's what I have handy. We're also garnishing with orange anyway. I know I'm a big citrus fan in general. It's one of the reasons I like Earl Grey tea because it is flavored with a citrus called bergamot. So I think the orange bitters is fine here. Don't think I've ever had coffee with an orange flavoring in it, but I mean, it seems like it should work. I'm also using a little homemade simple syrup instead of granulated sugar because I prefer it in general. Using granulated or even cubed sugar, as is traditional in an old-fashioned, sometimes leads to a grainy, sugary sludge at the bottom of the glass that I'm not a fan of. Making your own simple syrup is super easy. I go 1 part sugar, 1 part water, so cup and a cup. Traditionally, a simple syrup is probably 2 parts sugar to 1 part water, but I think that's a little bit too sweet for my taste. I don't have a lot of added sugar in my diet these days anyway, so a 1-to-1 for this. Plus, Mr. Black already has a little bit of sugar added into it to try and balance out the flavors as it's prepared anyway. It also means we can just mix the bitters and the syrup together instead of muddling the sugar and whatnot together, which is a lot less fussy and one less thing to clean at the end of the drink. So in goes the Mr. Black and in goes the whiskey. I have gone for a Scotch over the rye, which Mr. Black suggests in their recipe because, well, again, my own personal taste. Rye is lovely, the spice is nice, but Scotch's smooth depth and warmth and slight smoke. Scotch any day over rye as far as I'm concerned. Feel free to make your case in the down below if you feel differently. Or maybe you're a redneck and you like Kentucky bourbon instead. I'm only teasing. That's also really good. Never met a whiskey I didn't like. Well, that's not true. Canadian Club. Vile. Two things before I get to the actual taste testing here, and that is a bit of an order of operations fail there. The ice cube really should have gone in after the bitters and the simple syrup, because as you saw when I dropped it into the mix, it kind of splashed everywhere, and it's such a shame to waste good booze. Speaking of, I wouldn't normally use single malt 12-year-old Glenfiddich as a cocktail drink, but it just so happens it is the only Scotch that I have in the house right now, and in fact the only whiskey I have in the house. But if you're after something else that goes lovely for a sip and drink, this. But given the nature of whiskey, I tend to enjoy this more in the winter, which is one of the reasons I was looking around for a summery sip and drink. My usual go-to is a gin and tonic in the summer, which is beautiful in the summer. Oh, I love a good gin and tonic. Bombay gin is my preference, by the way, if you've got a different thought in the down below. Gin people get very combative about their favourite gins. Same with Scotch people and wine people, really. But, you know, we all have our preferences. But not the official recommended recipe for a cold-fashioned, Blunty's cold-fashioned, which is not really mine in so much as I made theirs more old-fashioned-y. Oh, right away. The aroma of the Glenfiddich hits you right away. The coffee gets lost a bit on the aroma, but not in the taste. You can feel it at the back of your palate, and oh my God, the Glenfiddich. You know what? It's not a waste of this to use it in here. Quite a lot of the time when you use a Scotch in a cocktail, the particulars of the Scotch kind of start disappearing a bit. You know, it becomes pointless to use a very, very fine, 12-year-old single malt in a cocktail because, well, everything that makes it special kind of gets lost in the mix. Not here. This is the first cocktail I've ever tried using nice Scotch that preserves quite a lot of what is nice about the Scotch in the first place. There's not a lot of Mr. Black left in that. The bitters comes through nice and crisp, gives you that sort of snap, and it's lovely. But next time I make this, I might go 2 Mr. Black to 1 Scotch, just to get that coffee more present. Because what's the point of using Mr. Black if you're not going to taste the coffee as one of the forward? What's the taste notes? What are the forward notes? I don't know. I've always been crap at doing tasting notes stuff. I can just tell you what I enjoy, and I enjoy that. But so far, my favorite way is just neat over ice, so I can get the full experience of Mr. Black in its own element, in its own purity. I'm not going to do it today because I've already had a few drinks, one of which was a double, single in this, single in the martini, which I haven't finished off yet, but I surely will when I'm done recording. So no more Mr. Black today, but maybe tomorrow I'll try it with some soda water, or what do the Americans call it? Seltzer. Got some seltzer in there. Just to give it a bit of lift, dilute it a bit, give it some sort of carbonation. In fact, speaking of carbonation, Mr. Black, and I don't think this is on the market yet in most places. I think it's on the Australian market, but it wasn't at the bottle store where I got this from. But they're selling little 250ml cans of pre-mixed espresso martini. And they're carbonated with nitrogen. So you get that very fine carbonation that nitrogen brings. Have you ever had a nitrogen carbonated drink? It used to be a bit of a gimmick with some energy drinks back in the day. I'm not sure how many drinks do it these days, but very, very small bubbles compared to regular carbonation with carbon dioxide. So it's not really carbonation, it's nitrogenization. Either way, I'm going to try and hunt some of those down. I don't think they'll be as economical as making your own if you've got the right equipment to begin with, but it's worth the try because they're even quicker and easier. Just go pour. Actually, I recommend you shake them up to get that foam, which you're not normally supposed to do with drinks with bubbles in, because so we'll see what happens there. In the meantime, thank you for watching. I am Blunty. Heartily recommend you go out and find some Mr. Black if you can. I'm sure it's available globally at this point. In some of my research, I came across a New York-based cocktail YouTube channel, How to Drink, that a lot of you probably would have heard of. He's quite popular. I've been watching a lot of him recently, but he said he could get it locally. I spotted it in one of his videos a little while back, and then instantly forgot it was a thing again until a couple of days ago because, well, like I said in the opening, I had to rush out and get a bottle because I knew I would forget about it again if I didn't. But yeah, if someone from Mr. Black is listening, you want to sponsor me, need a spokesperson or a brand ambassador that isn't some sort of just painfully wanky millennial hipster. Someone who just treats drinks for what they are instead of getting all wankery about it. I'm sure you could figure out how to get in contact with me. But yes, absolutely 100%. This is my new, very, very favorite sort of end of a summer's day supping drunk. Just splash it over a little ice, have a sip on it for 10, 15 minutes, just nurse it a little bit. Telling you, if you like coffee, especially if you like cold brew, Mr. Black puts out just, it's a wonderful thing. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty. Thank you to the patrons up above there, who've essentially just bought me this bottle this month, I guess. We'll say that. The patrons bought me this. Thank you, patrons.